Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Hiking Journal. In this second part of our southern San Diego adventure, Dave and I wake up to the sound of rain dripping off the roof of our little cabin at the Lake Marina campground and prepare to make the cold climb up Corte Madera Peak in the rain, sleet, and swirling winds. Corte Madera Peak stands at an elevation of 4,633 feet and is located near Campo, California, the famous starting point for the Pacific Crest Trail. To get to the trailhead involves driving about an hour east of San Diego and south to a point about 10 miles from the Mexican border. Along the way, you'll be driving along a winding paved and dirt road past a hidden military base operated by the Department of the Navy and maintained by the Navy SEAL training base out of Coronado Island. This base is sometimes used for remote mountain warfare training, as well as by the Seabees, a construction unit attached to the Department of the Navy. We drove right by the chain link and barbed wire fence on our way to the trailhead and read all of those warning signs. According to all trails, the route up to the summit of Corte Madera Peak is approximately 6.8 miles round trip, with an elevation gain of about 1,500 feet. Not too bad for a great climb to a lesser-known peak, with outstanding views, normally. You see, in our adventure, it was pouring rain and sleet, and winds whipped up the fog and made visibility less than 50 feet at times. So I'll have to take their word for it. Corte Madera Peak is also known as San Diego's Half Dome. No wonder it's named that after looking at the photos of that southern exposure on a clear day. After our tough little boulder scramble up to Lawson Peak yesterday, I have to admit I was a little stiff and sore when I swung my legs out of the bottom bunk in the Lake Marina cabin. Stepping out into the covered porch, seeing everything soaking wet, I thought about calling off our hike today. Thoughts about a good hot authentic Mexican breakfast burrito sounded much better than plodding through the slippery mud, clutching onto the wet mans needed to keep me from falling. When Dave awoke, he seemed anxious to do this, to hike up Corte Madera Peak, even though the cloud cover would surely ruin our views from the top. Looking at my remote thermometer, I was surprised to read the digital display, 35 degrees. Yikes. I wasn't too enthusiastic about this plan of ours, but thought maybe just a cup or two of hot cowboy coffee would change my mind. Too soaked for a campfire for sure, but as the rain let up, I set my Coleman propane stove up on a metal picnic table and fired it up. I got down to 35 at one point last night, and right now it's 39, but it's raining. So a lot of my stuff that was sitting out, we didn't think it was going to rain until later this afternoon, so it got a little wet, no big deal. Some of my cook set stuff, my Billy Bob set, is all steel level rust, so I kind of panicked this morning when I heard it starting to rain, so I came out here and grabbed it, pulled it all out, wiped it all down really good, so it'll be fine. I'll just wipe it down better when I get home, and put a little bit of oil on it, it should be fine. So in the meantime, I'm not going to do a fire because all of our firewood's wet, and I wasn't really planning on it anyway, so I just got some water in here in the kettle, this old English kettle, and I'm going to make some cowboy coffee this morning, at least to get things rolling here. I am going to make breakfast burritos this morning, and that was planned anyway, and I was planning on using the stove, that's why I brought it. I make breakfast burritos. We slept really good in the cabin last night. It was really warm. It's got a heater. It's got like a wood stove. It's a propane wood stove, which I've never seen before, and it worked phenomenally well. I was a little worried about carbon monoxide, but it does have a carbon monoxide monitor inside, and it has 3 big windows. We just opened the windows. So this sucker's almost boiling already. It hasn't been on the fire. This stove works great, and the burner on this side is like a flamethrower. So even though I've got, I don't know, 5 cups of water, but probably more than that, 10 cups of water in here, this thing is heating up really fast. So I got plenty of propane, so it's not a big deal. This campground's really nice. I was really surprised. Sleeping on the wooden bunk there, I had the bottom bunk, but I had some big pads. I had some big pads that I brought from home, and I brought a pillow I had from home. So I had my old Coleman sleeping bag. This sucker's, I don't know, I probably got it in the mid-80s, I guess. And it's just a flannel rectangular, slumber party, car camping sleeping bag. It's really comfortable, and it's good down to about, I'd say 45 or so. And I also had a big Polar Guard filled down quilt is rated to 20, and I had that laying on top of me just in case, and I never even needed it. I kicked it off within the first 10 minutes while I was in there, so that's all I needed. And we had the heater going all night, so no problems whatsoever. I don't even know what it is inside. It's probably 68 or 70 inside, so it was nice. Anyway, the coffee should be going. It should be ready here in a minute. I'm just gonna make some cowboy coffee. This is just gonna pour the grounds right in. This is coffee bean and tea leaf house plant. That'd be pretty good. Well, the rain kind of let up a little bit, and right now it's not raining, but temperature seems to be dropping. It's in the upper 30s right here right now. I hate to say it, but if it continues to drop, it might well snow here. I got my Coleman stove, a little propane instant start stove going. I got my carbon steel skillet out here. I'm going to pre-cook the sausages and the hash browns because I'm going to do breakfast burritos in here in a little bit. So I'll be scrambling up the eggs, and I'll set these aside a little bit while I'm cooking the eggs, and I'm going to make us some breakfast burritos this morning. It looks like several of the people in the cabins nearby, one of them is over here. They packed up and left. I guess they were going to go camping. They're only going to spend one night. I guess today would have been the day they do a day hike or they explore what's down here in this area, the Cleveland National Forest. But when it's raining and it's this cold, unless you're prepared for those kind of conditions, it makes it a little miserable. So anyway, you can hear my sausages sizzling. I can actually start to smell them, which smells good. I've already had my couple of cups of cowboy coffee, and I'm getting kind of jittery. I don't know if it was pretty strong, so I don't know if I want another cup yet. I might have to wait until I get the breakfast going. All right, we got the sausages are cooking up nice. Hash browns are cooking up nice. There's gonna be too many sausages to put on one burrito, but I'm gonna have to eat some of these sausages. Oh, Dave's making his breakfast burrito this morning.
Oh yeah.
Look at that. Looks pretty good. Eggs, sausage, cheese. It's a pico de gallo.
I can never do the roll right.
Oh, you probably put too much in it. I gotta get mine going here in a minute. Well, this is my masterpiece right here. This is I'm gonna be eating. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to even put this in my mouth. Nice and hot. Nothing better than a breakfast burrito on a cold day. The drive from Lake Marina to our turnoff at Coral Canyon Road was only about 9 miles, and when we reached the turn, it was raining lightly. All right, well, we've been on the Coral Canyon Road, or Coral Canyon Trail here for about, 5 minutes or so, and according to the GPS we're running, it says we're only about 5 minutes, you said, Dave? 5 minutes from the trailhead. And it's weird, this Coral Canyon Trail, part of it is dirt and part of it is paved. And we were kind of curious. We drove by a sign that said Camp Marina. We thought it was a public campground. We got there, it's surrounded by barbed wire, and it's Department of the Navy Camp Marina. So we don't know what that's all about. We're gonna have to do some research on that one. But in the meantime, we're continuing down Coral Canyon Trail, and I had read that it's even though it's a trail, it's actually suitable for passenger cars, and this section is paved. So even the dirt section was actually graded really nice. So we'll see if it continues to be in this good a condition all the way until the trailhead. But I can see the road way off in the distance. There's also an off-highway vehicle area here, so it looks like we got some guys on dirt bikes in front of us. It says, oh, there we go. Coral Canyon Off-Road Vehicle Area, 3 miles. I guess they're a little premature in where they went, huh? Well, it says Kernan Cycle Trail, so I don't know if that means motorcycles or mountain bikes. I don't know, but that's where they went, so must be a legitimate spot. They're riding down there, so it's like 3 of them.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, we're getting there. At a sharp left turn of the trail, we saw an iron locked gate to our right, accessing a narrow paved road leading to a home set back in the trees. Just up a steep hill was a pullout, and 2 vehicles backed in, parked on the shoulder. Dave checked his All Trails driving directions he had downloaded for off-trail use and confirmed This was indeed our trailhead for Corte Madera Peak. I backed in the Jeep and we stepped out into the cold rain. It was a lot colder than I thought it would be, and even though I didn't glance down at my thermometer hanging off my pack, it didn't take a rocket scientist to know that it was fucking cold. Trailhead elevation was about 3,800 feet, and the snow level was estimated to reach down to 3,500 feet later this afternoon and tonight. I was wearing a zippered T-neck long-sleeve synthetic shirt, a 100-weight polar fleece waffle grid pullover, and a rain shell. I also had on a North Face synthetic beanie and a pair of Rosinol synthetic gloves that I had worn many times, and they kept me warm down into the mid-30s. Today, that'd be a test for sure. I hadn't brought rainproof shell pants. In fact, I don't even own any. And even though the synthetic pants repelled light drizzle, they were no match for the sopping wet manzanita would be pushing through. I might as well have been wearing a cotton mop for pants. My Merrill Moab mid-height boots were not waterproof, and I knew my feet would get wet. Thankfully, I had learned my lesson many years ago and always wore thick merino wool socks that had never failed to keep my feet warm, even in the coldest and wettest of conditions. When Dave and I were ready, we headed to the locked iron gate and walked around next to a wooden sign that in better days was probably the trailhead sign. Dave and I began hiking up the scenic paved access road under a canopy of bright green oak trees and lush undergrowth. Within 100 feet, the pavement gave way to wet dirt that thankfully wasn't squishy wet with mud by now. Bright orange mushrooms grew wild at the base of the moss-covered trees as we passed the road, turning toward the home that was set back in the trees. Here was a galvanized trash can with a sign, Espinosa Trail, and a red arrow pointing straight for Corte Madera Mountain. Comically next to it were the words, "Not this way," pointing to the home. As we would find out later, the resident of the home was a little odd to say the least, and maybe this was just his sense of humor, or maybe a jab at hikers who he felt were infringing on his privacy. Dave had been cold since the start of the hike and really couldn't get warmed up. He'd been wearing a pair of old blue jeans over the top of his synthetic pants to ward off the chill. Quickly, he realized he was overheating, and his jeans were getting soaked hiking in the rain, brushing up against the wet manzanita. He stopped to remove them as I headed a little further up the trail to find a covered, more drier spot to wait. Well, we've been hiking for about 30 minutes, I guess, and it's raining pretty good. We got several layers on. Dave's down there shedding a layer. He's overheating. We're hiking uphill. It's what they call the Espinosa Trail. So we'll see how that goes today. It's been actually a pretty nice trail so far. The grade isn't that bad. And of course we can't see anything because we're all in fog. So we passed about 7 or 8 people already that were coming down the trail. And it sounds like almost all of them have turned around and come back down. So a couple of them were wearing just fleece and they were getting all wet. The other ones were a little more prepared. They had rain shells on, but they said this gets kind of slippery up there. My guess is it's the mud. So anyway, we'll see. I got to try to keep the camera dry. I got to keep these recordings short. Anyway, we're continuing on in the rain toward Corte Madera. At this point, I had to cover my camera with a bright blue doggy poop bag to keep it as dry as possible. Up ahead, I could see the trail topped out on a fire road. This must be the four-way junction, also known as Los Pinos Road. Left heads up to the Los Pinos Fire Lookout Tower. Right heads up and over into Corte Madera Valley, where private land holdings popped up within the forest boundary. This large, wide intersection was muddy, slippery, and soupy. Also being at the confluence of several ridge lines, the fog and clouds and rain blew across from one side of the valley to the other. On the far side, we could barely make out an iron gate where the trail continued across the road and dropped down into another valley. To our right was our first familiar brown and white lettered Forest Service sign. On it was written Los Pinos Peak, Espinosa Trail, and Coral Canyon Off-Road Area, none of which really answered any of our questions. I pulled my map out of the Ziploc baggie and confirmed that we had to head up the fire road for a short distance before resuming the route up to Corte Madera Peak. Here is where I first noticed it. A paw print. Fresh print in the mud. No big deal really, except that it was huge, bigger than my balled-up fist, even with my fingers spread. Holy crap. Looking closer, I noticed there were no nail tips showing, indicating that it was a canine or made by a dog hiking with her owner. Big, round, perfect paw pads sunk into a half-inch of mud by a heavily bodied animal. Several of them were visible, and I inspected them one by one, looking for differences in shape, symmetry, and depth, trying to convince myself that this was made by a dog and not a mountain lion. In the heavy rain, the soft terrain, and limited visibility, if a mountain lion wanted to get us, we might as well just lie down on the trail with our jugulars exposed because we didn't stand a chance. At a sharp left turn of the trail, we saw a wooden sign with CM painted in orange and an arrow. Here, a narrow trail emerged between the fanned-out arms of the brush laden with moisture. Here, the real climb began. Up till now, the trail had been straightforward, actually pretty easy for a mountain ascent. The trail began working its way through steep rocky sections, twisting and turning through the north face slope and increasing rain. As we climbed, I had this sense of urgency that this was going to get worse real quick. The terrain steeper and rockier, the mud slipperier, and now the rain had turned to sleet. We needed to get this summit over with. Now, I had been hiking a lot over the last few months, and the added endurance and leg strength provided additional advantage over Dave, who was beginning to tire. I don't blame him for slowing down. I was hauling ass and, to be honest, just a little bit nervous about this sudden downturn in weather. As I climbed up onto a steep boulder and made a turn, I looked back to see Dave struggling. I needed to stop. All right, well, we're getting there. Slowly but surely, the rain is still coming down. At one point, we got sleet, and it's kind of turned into a fine mist now. I went ahead and put the external microphone away. I didn't want to get wet. The camera has got a little bit of water resistance built into it, so we'll just have to go with the audio on this. I have a feeling, even if we make the top, we're not going to be able to see much because of the clouds. I'm hoping when we get to the top, we get rewarded with some snow, because walking in sleet's no fun. When Dave came around a corner, his mouth was agape, breathing hard and hunched over and drenched like a drowned rat. He didn't say anything at first, but I could tell he wasn't having fun anymore. How you doing, Dave?
So I'm hanging, but it's not easy.
Yeah, especially after doing Lawson yesterday. 2 days in a row, climbing's tough on your legs. I could feel it. All right, well, you can see my view behind me, and this is what I got to go still. You can't see the mountain. Now we're starting to get a little bit of sleet now. Again, it kind of stopped there for a second, but Dave's taking a little breather back there. Don't blame him. I've been going at a pretty good clip. Can't see the peak because of the clouds, but it's up there somewhere. Just gotta keep going. Dave mumbled that he thought it was a good idea if he just took the keys and headed back to the Jeep. I could feel his pain. Really, I could. But now we were so close. We were already soaked and freezing, so we might as well finish it, I told him. Dave looked at his All Trails app on his phone and estimated that we were 7/8 of a way to the top, and through intermittent wafts of passing clouds we could see large boulders. We were sure that was Corte Madera Peak. Why don't you lead, I told Dave. I'll just bring up the rear and we can stop any time you want. Dave reluctantly agreed, and we crested a hilltop and began down a steep rocky trail. That's about the last thing we needed right now. Luckily, the descent was brief, and we began weaving back up through head-high manzanita and dense fog. Up till now, we had only seen a few hikers, one young couple who was retreating down the mountain. They told us they weren't prepared for this and were just wearing polar fleece. It definitely wasn't worth it for them. Another group we passed was also heading down the mountain at a rather quick pace. These ladies were Filipino, if I were to guess, and were dressed in bright pink and orange rain gear, planting and pivoting off their trekking poles. They didn't say much, keeping their heads down to avoid the rain from running under their hoods. One attractive woman bringing up the rear smiled and looked to be about the only one who was enjoying the hike today. When I got home, I noticed a post from Charmaine F., who summited this day and posted a picture holding the summit sign. It was pretty obvious she was an experienced hiker and had quite a list of summits to her resume. As Dave zigzagged through the manzanita, a large black lab suddenly appeared out of nowhere, soaked to the bone but cautiously wagging his tail. Dave stopped mid-trail as the dog sniffed his pant leg and walked toward me. All right, well, we've been hiking on this trail for a long time now, and rain finally let up. We're still in the fog, and we're still in head-high manzanita, but we're thinking that we're coming to the end of this trail, the summit of Corte Madera Peak. Not sure. A while back we looked at the map when we were about 7/8 of the way. Oh, here comes a hiker. There's the dog.
There you are. Hi there, buddy. Little girlie.
Just a few feet behind him out of the fog came Tristan. Dressed in a red and black hooded rain shield with earbuds dangling out, he grinned and introduced us to his dog, Bandit, the black lab. Would you look at the size of those paws, I told Dave. Well, there's our mountain lion. Tristan was friendly and said he was surveying possible routes for his guiding job as a private hiking, backpacking, bouldering, and rock climbing guide. He said he was surprised to see anybody up here in this kind of weather. He told us the summit was just a few feet up the trail and continued down to the safety of his vehicle and a nice warm blanket for Bandit. A good dog indeed. All right, well, how far is the summit? Is it right there?
Yeah, you're not too far away. They're like over this crest and you're right there at the
All right,
summit.
cool. Yeah, we've been working our way up this trail in the rain, and we've been following those big paw prints, and we were wondering where they came from, and now we know. He's going, oh, that was a tough climb. He's all soaked, just like we are. What time did you start?
I started at 10.
10? Okay, yeah, we started probably just at
11:30.
Oh, yeah, 11:30.
Okay,
yeah,
okay, nice.
Was it raining when you started?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was raining when. Yeah. So, have you been here before?
No, I haven't. I'm actually out here spotting this out for climbs because I do like guiding and stuff.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm spotting out so then I can add this to the list of
places you go
to guide people to go
cool.
climbing. And
oh, that's awesome. Now, rock climbing?
Rock climbing, yep.
Oh, okay. So there's some good bouldering spots here, it looks like.
Oh, amazing
look at that
bouldering spots.
Yeah, I bet.
I've been seeing them all the way up and just walking up to them, figuring out the route up. I'm going to come back up here and start developing some of them.
Now, would you have a company name or anything?
No, I'm just myself.
Okay.
And so, like, if you don't mind, use my information.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Yeah, what's your name? What's your name and where are we from? Because this is going to go on YouTube, so they'll know it.
Okay, cool. So, I'm fully off the grid of social media. So the only way I advertise is by word of mouth, meeting people.
Yeah.
But I'm based out of El Cajon, Alpine area.
Okay.
And I do guiding for hiking, backpacking, and rock climbing.
Awesome.
Throughout all of East County.
Okay.
And then I'm also doing climbing instructing, teaching people how to rock climb, sport climbing, bouldering, indoors and outdoors.
Oh, okay. Are you affiliated with anybody like REI or Nomad Ventures or anything like that, Joshua Tree Outfitters or anything? Nothing?
No,
just doing your own thing?
I'm just my own thing.
Oh, cool.
Just pursuing a passion I enjoy and
that's like us.
People out here, you know.
Yeah, that's like us up here. The only crazy ones that decided to come up here in pouring rain. So
I know, it was such a surprise when I saw you guys. I was like, wait, I'm not the only crazy one out here.
Wait, what's your first name?
Tristan.
I'm Anthony, and that's Dave right there.
Nice to meet you guys.
Yeah,
nice to meet
we've never done this peak before. We've done a lot of everything else, but not this one. So now we can hopefully check this one off our list if we survive the next couple hundred feet, I hope. So, all right. Well, it's nice talking to you. What's your dog's name?
Yeah, likewise. That's Bandit.
Bandit, how are you, Bandit?
Hi, Bandit.
Bandit's a little nervous. She's going, oh, Dad.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you guys have a nice, safe trip down,
yeah,
and we're only going to spend 5 minutes up here. We're going to turn around because we're soaked to the bone. So,
oh, it sounds
we're
good.
We're
and
gonna head down.
For the guiding too, if anyone wants to contact me, my phone number is 619-971-3236, and phone calls or texts both works. And
how about you have a website?
I don't have a website.
Okay, or email. Maybe they could shoot you an email.
I do have an email. Yeah, so it'd be tristenromero @hotmail.com.
Okay.
And you can send me an email too, and
All
that
right,
works
cool.
out.
Yeah.
And
All right. Well, thanks
yeah.
for talking to us, and enjoy the rest of your hike out.
Yeah, thanks for the advertising.
No problem, man. All right, take care.
All right.
Bye.
Have a good one, you guys.
Bye there.
Dave and I anxiously hiked the remaining section with renewed vigor now, and once seeing the large boulders, we knew we were at the top. All right, well, we've come to pretty much into the trail here. Oh, there's the ammo can. Here's the summit, right there. Oh yeah, there's the drop-off. There it is.
Shit. Oh, I'm sorry.
Corte Madera Peak. What does it say the elevation is? Hold the sign up, Dave.
4657.
All right.
Oh, there's the...
Oh, yeah. And there's a tremendous drop-off off this side, but of course you won't be able to see it because we're in the fog. I have a feeling we're not going to be up here too long. There's, I think, there's the ammo can. We're going to sign in at the ammo can. I don't think we're going to spend a whole lot of time up here. But anyway, we made it to the top of Corte Madera Peak in the fog, in the rain, in the mist, and Dave grabbed the summit register can and sign and moved it to a more protected location to open and sign the register. We took a quick selfie as the wind and rain were blowing sideways up here. The visibility was near zero. That phenomenal view we had anticipated was reduced to mere feet. In fact, we couldn't even see the drop off the side of the boulders. I inched closer for a peek, but the rocks were slippery. Now wasn't the time or place to get careless. I too backed off the top and sought some form of shelter. I don't even know what's over here, but I'll tell you what, it looks like it's a pretty good drop from here down into the valley. So we're going to hang out here just for a few minutes, not very long, just enough to rehydrate a little bit and get some calories in us, just enough to get some fuel for the ride. It's cold here. I don't know. I haven't found a ride. I bet you it's in the 30s right here. Anyway, where'd Dave go? He took the sign and the can. He's not going to do it in the wind. He's going to go into a sheltered spot. I don't blame him. So, yeah, we're going to take a picture over here, I think. I balled up my fist and water poured down like rain out a sponge. I took off my gloves and tried to get some video of the summit with my cell phone, but within seconds I lost all feeling in my fingers and I was unable to operate the touchpad. I could feel my soaked pants icing up and felt a cold deepening all the way through my butt cheeks. That was a first. I told Dave we need to get off the top and out of this wind. We made great time heading down the mountain. At one point I realized Dave had completely forgotten about how tired he was, the adrenaline from attaining the summit still coursing through his veins. By the time we reached the muddy intersection and started down the Espinosa Trail, the rain had eased up a bit. Even some of the clouds had thinned out by now, and we could see across the valley toward Los Pinos Peak and the Fire Lookout. Well, we're not too far from the car. We made it down through all the tough spots, and now we're working our way toward the car, and we're just kind of amazed. We just passed a couple of people, 3 people hiking up. It's probably at least 2:30 in the afternoon, and it's 35 degrees. It's raining with a 25-mile-an-hour wind at the summit. So you do the math on the wind chill on that one. At least we're pretty much protected. We have synthetic layers on and we have a rain shell. But when we were on the top, man, my fingers were frozen solid. We spent maybe 10 minutes tops and we had to get off the top. I sent my wife a text on the inReach telling her that we were at the top so she would have at least a waypoint of where our last contact spot was, just in case, worst case scenario. And I couldn't even I could barely work the Garmin. My fingers got so cold so fast. So, but anyway, we're not too far from the car now, and we're drenched to the bone like drowned rats. So we're looking forward to getting back to the car. We have dry clothes because we have leftover stuff from our camping. I have another pair of pants. I have another pair of wool socks. I've got 3 or 4 different types of insulating layers and a down jacket. So And of course we got the heater in the Jeep, so we should be doing good. And we made great time coming down. And actually a pretty good time going up. We didn't even start till 11:30. It's only probably, I don't know, 3. I haven't looked. So we made good time on this one, probably because we were motivated because it was cold and rainy, and the fact that we didn't complete Lawson yesterday, we kind of felt like we owed it to ourselves to successfully summit Corte Madera Peak. Anyway, we should be back to the car here pretty soon. Once we bottomed out and were on the road near the home set back in the trees, I saw a man wearing a red jacket picking up branches on the side of the road. Thinking it was Tristan, I almost yelled out, but then I noticed Bandit wasn't nearby. I also noticed a sawtooth battery-operated hedge trimmer laying in the dirt. That's kind of odd. Why would anybody trim out here in the rain? There wasn't anything blocking the road, or even sticking out onto it for that matter. As I neared, a middle-aged man looked up. I said, "Hi, doing some trimming?" He looked up and stared straight at me and said nothing. No smile, no grunt, nothing. Figuring he didn't hear me, I said hello again, and this time from near feet from his face. Still nothing but a blank stare. Okay, well, I thought this homeowner must be pissed that we were using his road to access the trail. Well, whatever, asshole. Dave was trailing behind me, and as I rounded a corner, I looked back waiting for Dave. Within a few seconds, he didn't appear, and now I thought back to that sharpened hedge trimmer laying on the side of the road. After a few nervous moments, Dave appeared shaking his head. He said he saw our interaction and said hi as well. Dave said he had the same reaction, nothing but a blank stare. As Dave walked away, he said under his breath, but slightly loud enough for the guy to hear, "Dick?" Suddenly, the guy strikes up a conversation out of nowhere. Dave, thrown off by this, turned around and began to chat. Dave laughed and said the guy wouldn't shut up. It's like somehow a switch had been thrown from off to on. We both laughed as we rounded the locked gate and walked the final few steps to the Jeep. Luckily, I had plenty of spare warm clothing in the Jeep, an Icelandic wool sweater, a down jacket, another pair of dry pants, and some wool long johns. I even changed into some fresh dry wool socks and dry boots. Dave, on the other hand, had only his drenched jeans that he had left on a rock beside the trail and picked up on the way back. Needless to say, we cranked up the heater in the Jeep on the way home. Well, we made it back to the Jeep. Made it down pretty quick, actually. And it's kind of clearing off that direction to the north and west. And we were just absolutely soaked to the bone. But luckily, I had some long underwear. They were in the Jeep. And I had another pair of pants, an extra pair of wool socks, a couple of extra insulating layers, and a different beanie that's dry. And in a second here, we're going to be driving back down Coral Canyon Trail toward Interstate 8 to complete our adventure. And we're going to have the heater on, believe you me. So anyway, we got a few more things we got to do. We got to put some more stuff inside the Jeep before we head out. But it's been one hell of an adventure. One of the most exciting and memorable day hikes I've done in a long time. Hiked all the way to the top of Corte Madera Peak in inland San Diego County. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Journal, and I'll see you down the trail. Take care. Bye-bye. Traffic was light for a Sunday heading north on Interstate 15, and we made record time back to the house. Thinking back, I have to ask myself, would I ever do this hike again in the pouring rain? Probably not. Was it exciting? Yeah, I guess. Was it smart? Probably not. If either one of us would have fallen or become injured, spending the night without a tent, a sleeping bag, or additional warm and dry clothing in sub-freezing conditions would have had some pretty serious ramifications, and taking that unnecessary risk isn't worth it. Corte Madera Mountain isn't going anywhere, and just a few days later, someone posted absolutely perfect weather and great view off the half dome of San Diego, Corte Madera Peak. Well, that'll do it for this edition of the Hiking Journal, our summit of Corte Madera Peak in the pouring rain. If you have any questions or comments about this edition or any other edition of the Hiking Journal, feel free to post a comment below. In the next edition of the Hiking Journal, I take a quick but tough solo hike to the Santa Isabel Open Space Preserve, and I do a 7.13-mile West Trail loop. Here I dress in full Scottish regalia, kilt, beret, and kilt hose, before wading knee-deep through the Santa Isabel Creek and climb a series of tough slopes. I also dig out my 70-year-old Optimus 8R backpack stove and cook up some lunch before completing the loop and returning to the Jeep. Only a few more weeks till that Mount Whitney lottery drawing, so I still got to keep my fingers crossed that we'll get lucky and then the real training will begin. Anyway, hope you liked the last 2 episodes, our adventure deep into inland San Diego and our hike up to Mount Lawson and Corte Madera Peak. Take care, and I'll see you down the trail. Bye-bye.